Hello and welcome to round 8 here on day 2 of the Magic Online Championship. I'm Brian David Marshall, joined by Randy Bueller. We have Luis Scott Vargas keeping an eye on everything in the red zone, and we are about to watch Lars Dam of Denmark. There you get a look at him at 6-1, and he is taking on Tamas Glied.
Yeah, these guys are the two 6-1s. They have a 2-match lead on the rest of the field. They're just hoping they can have a decent day today to get through to the top 4. One of these guys is going to be sitting pretty after this match. One of these guys is going to be starting to sweat a little bit as he gives one away right away.
Yeah, Lars leads things off with a Temple of Deceit, and we get an Asphodel Wanderer out of Tamas.
Yep. Not a great card. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, you know what? He can block giant green guys if you need him to. But
right.
He's not the best. And then Omen Speaker comes down and just kind of blanks him on the other side. Now Tamas sees that, oh, Lars is not really interested in attacking me with... He sees Temple of Deceit Mountain at this point, so I think Tamas is thinking it's going to be kind of control-ish.
There you get a look at the board. And...
All right, didn't get to see what Lars scried.
He put one card on the bottom and one card on top.
Check.
So second swamp for Glied. And go, it says go.
Yeah, so
can't attack, can't block with the Asphodel Wanderer.
Or deal onto Omen Speaker. Crunch. Wow.
And this is fine, even though the Asphodel Wanderer will be able to block and regenerate next turn.
Fine for Lars.
Lars is pretty happy to just keep bashing that Omen Speaker in there.
Yeah, he puts Tamas in the position where he's either going to need to take 3 damage or leave up his mana and not do anything else. It is definitely caught between a rock and a hard place here. And the thing is, even if he does block and regenerate, that ordeal
That's
is
what I was saying. The ordeal is just
going
to fire off, and he's going to have... but no, he can't fight that fight.
If he's not planning to leave his mana up to regen, he may as well plink in for a point. What does he have to play this turn, though?
Is it a Voyage's End?
Yeah, he would love to answer that
Nope.
Omen Speaker somehow.
Instead, it's a Blood Toll Harpy. He's just going to have to race here, I guess.
He's not.
The Asphodel Wanderer can eventually just hold back the Omen Speaker.
Right, but I mean, Tamas would love to answer that Omen Speaker before the ordeal goes off.
There's a divination. A happy Luis Scott Vargas.
More cards. Yeah, ordeal triggers. Omen Speaker picks up another counter.
Yeah. There we go. 4th land now for Tamas. And there's Servant of Timurat. So he can regenerate most of the day. Not all day long until he gets 6 mana, but he's going to, Lars is about to go 2 cards deeper into his library. There's the Omen Speaker, picks up its 3rd counter. Lars picks up 2 cards. And there's a Sealock monster that can just attack. It doesn't need to get monsters to do it. He found the other blue player in the draft.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about Sealock monster. If your opponent is blue, he's insanely good. I mean, just 5/5 for 5 don't happen in blue. But even if they're not blue, they probably means they're trying to attack you with ground creatures, right?
Yeah.
And now he's an awesome blocker until you get up to the monstrous ability. And when you get up to the monstrous ability, he becomes this gigantic blocker. Give them an island and turn him into an 8/8. It's just a good, solid guy. Don't usually have to waste a first pick on him, but
no. In fact, we saw this come around the table.
Yeah, this was the 2nd pick out of that pack. He got it like 9th or 10th.
Yeah. So first Gray Merchant comes down.
Yeah, this is Tamas's plan is to race.
Yeah.
He had 1 Gray Merchant in his deck. I believe that is the Gray Merchant.
Yeah.
We got a quick glance at his deck build.
Yeah,
I think that's the one.
Yeah, gets Lars down to 8.
Mm-hmm.
2 attackers. Tamas is on 15. Can he afford to
take
wait
9?
a turn here?
The crackback, if he doesn't chump, is for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow.
But Lars's hand is,
5 cards still.
Yeah. And he has a little bit of play here.
Untap
Voyage's
mana.
End, Retraction Helix, Crackling Triton.
Yeah, that's a tricky spot. I don't. If I'm Tomasz, I'm not winning the long game. I've got a race. I think you take it, and this is exactly what
Yeah,
Tomasz has
that's what he
decided to
did.
do. Wow, Crackling Titan with the mana up to sack it. So Crackling Titan can both block, maybe shoot down Blood Toil Harpy, or even go to Tomasz's face for 2 damage. Yeah, I mean, I think Tamas is trying his best to turn this into a race where the card advantage from Lars isn't going to matter.
Right.
It's not a high percentage play,
Sure.
but it's the best, highest percentage I think he had access to.
Right. You see he's sitting on Sip of Hemlock there.
Right? That can get an extra 2 points through.
Just trying to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just attacks with the Harpy. Says you want to use
the Titan makes he can't really attack on the ground.
It's like if you want to use it here, great.
Exactly.
In fact, if Lars uses it here, it's a kind of amazing for him because then he gets to sip, the Sea Lock monster.
Lars doesn't know there's only one Gray Merchant over there, though. I guess if there was a second Gray Merchant, he'd already be dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next Gray Merchant would be for 7. So yeah, those 2 damage is potentially the difference between Gray Merchant range and not Gray Merchant range. I'd be very tempted to shoot it down if I was Lars. Some of it, I didn't actually catch a glimpse of Lars's hand to see what he's got.
Lars is holding a Retraction Helix and a Voyage's End and 2 mountains.
All right, well he's willing to. I guess if Gray Merchant did come down, he could shoot something as a response. No, that wouldn't be good enough.
I wouldn't know.
He's basically called. If you get Gray Merchant, you got me. Otherwise, I like my chances.
Nyxborn Eidolon. With mana to regenerate, and then we're going to see. Yeah.
Voyage's End from
Yeah,
Lars.
it has to be a Voyage's End because his he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have a non-summoning set creature to use the Retraction Helix on. And he bounces the Servant.
Yep. The better of the 2 regenerators. And the more expensive to replay.
Second Divination for Lars.
Yeah, the attacks are less exciting here now with a regenerator and enough mana. Yeah, Lars kind of wishes he had a flyer. Yeah, he's gonna brawl. I think this makes sense.
Yeah, there's not really a good block for Tamas other than block something big and regenerate.
Yeah, he's gonna throw that Eidolon away. He doesn't want to take. He doesn't want to go down to 2. I mean, it's lethal because of the Crackling Titan, so he's obliged to block both of these creatures. 1 regeneration, 1 chump block. You see Tamas kind of sit back. Yeah, now what happens?
So now Lars can cast Divination and still have mana to do
both Retraction Helix and the sack. Yeah, that's
yeah.
nice. It's a nice spot. He's going to decide which mana to tap for the Divination.
I mean, not that his Retraction Helix targets are,
no, they're not great, but I mean,
great, yeah.
It's like an emergency get out of jail sort of card.
Draws Ember Swallower, which
now
he could
he could
play it, but he does not want to tap that mana.
I agree with that play. Leave up Crackling Titan mana and the Retraction Helix. That seems like the safer play. I mean, both of his ground creatures are lethal. Tamas is obliged to block them every turn because that Crackling Titan is just threatening the last 2 points. Blood Toil chips away. And I feel like...
Yeah, he's going to just sack it here.
Yeah.
So now, Tamas is going to be able to kill... No, he's just going to play the Servant.
Not going to sip?
Yeah.
I think he's interesting. So this lets him regenerate for another turn.
Right.
He's basically going to have to regenerate and chump block. I guess in theory he could take 4 here. Well.
Yeah,
What is
a,
Bolt of Chronos
a
do?
handful of gas for Lars. I mean, that's what happens when you have 2 divinations, right? Like, and an Ordeal of Thassa,
Uh-huh.
right? He's
Yeah,
gone 6
attack with
cards.
both the creatures. If Tomash lets one of these hit him, the Bolt is now lethal. They're no longer on board lethal, right? So, you know, Lars might be saying to Tomash, all right, I used my Crackling Triton. Now, do you want to just take 4, go down to 2? Of course, Tomash is looking over at 4 mountains, and it's not what he wants to do. It's tricky, though. It's a tricky spot. Like, do you just throw away a creature to defend against the possibility that your opponent has a burn spell?
But you know you want a sip of Hemlock next turn, right? Like, you're not going to have...
Yeah, but you could leave up double regeneration.
Sure.
Hypothetically, he could have just left up double regeneration. But no, he is in fact going to regenerate 1, chump block with the other.
Conservative Timuret taps for Springleaf Drum to pay for itself.
Sure. Now, what do you bolt? Bolt the
You
regenerator?
bolt that, yeah, you bolt that. You bolt the Servant.
And here's Ember Swallower. All right.
What do you got?
Yeah, you got. Can you deal with this? It's close. Sip and attack would actually drop Lars to 2.
But the enemy's gate would
yeah,
be
the
down.
crackback is lethal. Sip and chump block might be good enough. That has to be the plan. Like, the only way he survives the 3 giant monsters is Sip of Hemlock, leave Grey Merchant on defense. I mean, his play's kind of forced here. He just has to decide who to point the Sip at. I mean, he can't afford to play both creatures, right? If he doesn't want to play the Sip, he could play a creature to chump block with. I'm not sure how that helps, though.
Yeah, and I think he has to get the Ember Swallower because he can't afford to
lose his land.
Lose his lands, yeah.
Yeah, you can see which he targeted the Ember Swallower.
Yeah. So now Grey Merchant's on chump duty.
Yeah, it's forced. Well, he has to block the Sealock monster because the monster's ability would send it up to more than Tomash's life total.
Yeah, but he's just going to Retraction Helix.
Yeah, Omen Speaker, Retraction Helix to bounce Grey Merchant, and Sealock goes monstrous halfway through activating the monstrous ability. Lars goes ahead, or Tomash goes ahead and concedes. Lars wins.
And off to sideboards.
Off to the sideboard. So that's kind of how we expected that to go, right?
Yeah.
We saw both decks, and Lars just seemed like he was able to draft cards with a higher power level.
Right. He seemed to have all the premium blue cards. But how much do you sideboard in this format, Randy? Like how often are you going to your sideboard?
I'm gonna say probably not often enough.
Okay.
It's so much easier to just shuffle up the 40 I've got. I know Magic Online is sort of easier. It drops you into sideboarding. You're like, oh, yeah, I have that in my sideboard. It's definitely a good habit to be in, just to look. And, you know, there are matchups where, you know, one thing I do, like when I'm drafting, I'm always trying to grab, like, you know, I keep drafting Yoked Ox, thinking I'm going to run into the guy with all the little dorks, and someday I'm going to need to just sideboard in a 1-mana 0/4. Never actually makes the cut, but, I mean, there's a lot of little things like that where, you know, there are matchups where you just want every cheap creature you can get your hands on, even the terrible ones, because, you know, you get that 15-land red-white heroic deck and you've got a block.
Right.
You know, this is a matchup where those regenerators are not particularly good for Tomash. You know, I'd be looking, does he have any way to fight a control fight? Like, if he just plays the dorky little regenerators, his opponent showed him divination, showed him another divination, showed him, you know, this sort of control-ish blue deck. I think that it's kind of on Tomash to go see, can he turn his deck into something that does a little better job of fighting a control fight.
Right. You see both these players, you know, pretty intensely staring down their sideboards, trying to figure out something that might be there. What about you, Luis? How much do you sideboard in this format?
I tend to sideboard, not yet. I mean, mostly it's like enchantment removal, artifact removal, like that sort of thing comes in. You can also kind of change the way your creature's power and toughness are. If you have extra cards in your sideboard that you didn't want to play, this isn't the deepest card pool of format, so it's not often that you're like, well, I'm going to play this 3-drop instead of this 3-drop, or this 5-drop instead of this 5-drop. So you don't usually have a ton of different, viable options that you would have wanted to board in. It's mostly just putting in more enchantment removal or taking out enchantment removal. Cards like Annul. Annul is a card I don't like to start, but I often will sideboard.
Right. Yeah, the players have started. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties trying to get the match up on BDM's computer. Maybe we could pull it up on the red zone to make sure.
Yeah, it looks like
oh,
we
we've
have
got
it
it.
now.
Great.
So return phalanx, a little bit more substantial a blocker for Glied this game. Again, an Omen Speaker for Lars. And now an Omen Speaker for Tamas.
Yeah, I do like Tamas's deck. I mean, it seems like a pretty solid blue-black control deck. It just doesn't feel like it matches up great against the blue-red control deck.
Now he's going to bash with his return phalanx.
Get in there.
And just a divination for Lars. Who goes right into Prescient Chimera here. Yeah, so there's the Prescient Chimera on turn 4. And there's a Chorus of Tides from Lars. Yeah. Oh, but Ashiok has come down. So a Scryland from Tamas. And is he going to... I mean, he just has to just play Ashiok here, right?
Yeah, I think you just play Ashiok here.
So there's Ashiok. Exiles 3 cards. We see... Oh, he got a Prognostic Sphinx off of Ashiok.
Wow.
So next turn he could just cash in Ashiok for a Prognostic Sphinx if he wanted.
Yep. 5 mana, 5 loyalty. He can just put the Prognostic Speak under his control. He could also keep milling away. Now, what does Lars do about this?
Well, Lars really needs to, he wants to bounce that flyer and, maybe get in there and sort of nibble away at Ashiok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to see Retraction Helix. Omen Speaker is going to bounce the Chimera.
Chorus of Tides is going to get in there to take a pot shot at Ashiok.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There you get a look at the players on the right. I mean, that's only a short-term solution.
Right.
Oh, but there's another Chorus of Tides.
That helps. Does he have another bounce spell? I haven't seen.
I mean, we certainly know he has some in his deck. Looks like
Omen
he just
Speaker
got
this
an
time.
Omen Speaker this time.
Yeah, now Tamas has got to be just replay. Got to be on replay Prescient Chimera, right?
Lars has a judge question, it looks like.
Oh, is he? Does he?
Want to
Interesting.
figure out exactly how Ashiok works, or...
What's the? Yeah, I'm not sure what the interaction is. He'd be confused about here. Is he counting mana to try to get both?
There you see Toby Elliott. Toby Elliott's like, I've never seen that before. And now a Mike Turian, another Pro Tour Hall of Famer. And maybe
maybe it must
maybe
be.
we can hear from Marshall what's going on here.
Yeah, with Mike coming over, it's got to. I think it's a client interface issue. Like he's trying to make sure he understands how to see. Oh, you know what? He's probably trying to see what the other exiled cards are. Yeah, I think he was looking to see where the other cards that are exiled by Ashiok are.
Okay.
It puts the creatures under the
got
Ashiok
it,
itself. But yeah, he had to go up to the exile zone on Lars's side of the interface to see its Mountain, Island, Temple of Deceit are the other 4 cards that have been exiled.
There you go. Then we'll show them to you right there.
All right.
So, but this is
meanwhile, yes.
This is kind of a Sisyphean task here, though. Going after, you can ram one of your flyers into the Chimera.
Well, Lars has another retraction
he has
helix
another
in his hand.
retraction helix.
Yeah, you make the same play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Retraction helix, bounce, Prescient Chimera, 2 choruses can actually kill the Ashiok.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had to throw a couple of cards at it, right? I mean, the Ashiok is essentially traded for 2 retraction helixes and 9 damage. But you killed it. I mean, a Planeswalker as powerful as that, you do what you got to do. I'm pretty sure what you got to do here is get that Ashiok off the table. Is he going to Divination first and see if he's got better options?
Yes, he is.
I'm not sure what the better options would be, but yeah, okay. Triton Fortune Hunter might be nice to have that be the thing you're pointing the retraction helix at, but he does not have time.
He really can't
doesn't
just
have time
rip
for that.
through his deck here.
Oh, he's looking. He can Ordeal so that he only has to attack with 1. Like he could attack with a 4-power chorus and have the other chorus take a pot shot at Tamas, but
that looks like what we're going to see.
Okay. He also gets a scry out of targeting the Chorus of the Tides. Right, so Retraction Helix with the bounce. Now he'll have 7 power worth of flyers
and
here.
4 of it can go at Ashiok, 3 of it can go at Tamas. And now
down goes Ashiok.
Yep. And you see an Omen Speaker and a Prognostic Sphinx go to the exile zone.
Yeah, the other nice thing this does is it means that Chorus next turn, with the one that's wearing the Ordeal, will be able to attack through Prescient Chimera.
Right, because it's going to attack as a 5/4.
Mm-hmm.
See a Siren.
So he's got, what,
Chimera.
6 mana?
Black
He can get
Oak
a
of Adunis.
7th off the Springleaf Drum. Siren Springleaf Drum is cute. He's definitely got some shenanigans he can get up to there. Tapping the Springleaf Drum, even though it's summoning sick, off the Springleaf Drum, so that next turn it'll untap. He can start working on Lars's hand. That's not going to deal with 7 power worth of flyers, though.
7 and counting.
Right. Yeah, the Siren play would leave him 1 mana short of being able to replay the Prescient Chimera.
Right.
He can either play both of the 3 drops, or he can play just the Prescient Chimera. And none of those leave him in a great spot. I mean, he is on 17. He can take a hit.
Right.
He goes Prescient Chimera. And the 2 mana, just enough to activate Return Phalanx. Get in for 3 damage. Now, Lars has an easy attack with the Ordeal wearing Chorus.
Right. But does he want to just... He doesn't. Plays Triton Fortune Hunter.
Yeah, I think he just sit on Nullify.
Gets to sit back on the Nullify he just drew. He knows he's going to draw 2 more cards next turn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Sip of Hemlock just in time.
Wow.
Right before that Ordeal can go off and draw 2 cards.
And you cannot nullify that.
Nope. That was a great top deck from Tamas. So down goes...
Just the way he drew it up in the locker room.
Down goes the 6/5 flyer that was about to be gigantic.
And he gets to attack with his Prescient Chimera here. Not worried about taking 3 back because he's a little bit ahead on the race here. And that's what happens. So it's going to be 9/9 after that attack step. And there, oh, Crackling Triton. Changes the race a little bit. Oh, we see a Voyage's End in Tomash's hand. Yeah, and that Triton doesn't really have any great targets right now, but that might change, you know, if he's willing to run his guys, one of his guys into an attack, into a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he might be able to get a return phalanx.
Yeah, it doesn't. Tamas is still winning this race on the board. Just barely, but he is.
So here comes Black Oak of Adunis. Is this going to get nullified? He's like, no.
Yeah, no, this game's being fought in the air. Lars wasn't really going to be able to get through with a ground attack anyway. So he'll save the nullify for something more relevant. Chorus will drop Tamas to 6.
But Voyage's End.
So he's casting Voyage's End rather than take the 3 damage.
Yes.
He gets 2 scry triggers.
Yeah, he gets the scry from the Voyage's End, and he gets the scry from the ability of the Chimera.
It does allow Lars to replay the chorus.
And it allows him to trade 2 cards for the Chimera if he wants to. You know, he can get, you know, if Lars wants to, if Lars is willing, he might just have to.
Oh, is that Sudden Storm?
Oh, it is a Sudden Storm.
That'll change a math in a race. He's tapped the mana for Sudden Storm. He's thinking about it. I mean, there's value to clearing a path with the chorus.
Right.
I mean, Lars is certainly representing the ability to...
Scry 2 here. So, remember, he scryed twice last turn. So, that Sudden Storm is not just a random top deck.
Right. Yeah, Tamas sees his Prescient Chimera as the route to victory here. So if he attacked, Lars was representing the ability to block with chorus
and then
throw 2 damage with Crackling Triton. So it would be 2 cards for the Prescient Chimera, but then where does that leave Tamas? It leaves him with nothing handy to deal those last points of damage. So this line from Tamas looks pretty good. And the fact that he main phase bounced that Chorus of the Tides last turn, he doesn't know this, but it kept Sealock Monster at bay.
Right. And again, it let him dig 2 cards and find, you know, the next spell he needed to keep his game going.
Yeah, pretty nice tempo game Tamas Glied has played this time.
Taps the Triton and the Flyer. Theoretically, he could send in his return phalanx here. Yep.
It looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. I think Lars will double block, which basically trades it for the Triton Fortune Hunter, but at least gets it off the board.
Yep.
And Lars has actually got one turn to top deck, or he's dead to the Flyer. His Flyer's not going to untap with Sudden Storm, so he needs it to. Omen Speaker's going to get in there too. Funny. That Nullify has not worked out. I mean, there's just been no Nullify targets. It's been all instants from Tamas.
Yep. So he double blocks. We can assume the Triton Fortune Hunter is going to be the card that gets put first in the chain.
Reorder the blockers. So 4 damage. Lars is going to fall to 2 from this attack, and he must top deck right now. Sealock Monster doesn't deal with a Flyer. Chorus of the Tides isn't going to untap.
And Nullify is still looking for, you know, something to nullify.
I mean, if he does top deck, he's actually in quite good shape. Like, his cards are better if it wasn't for that Prescient Chimera. And just the tempo of having just enough time to get it through.
So Lars is at 2.
Survey says
Thassa's
Emissary. Outstanding card. Not going to help him here. He has to bestow onto Omen Speaker an attack. It's not going to work.
No.
That's his only play. It's like hope against hope that he gets to connect. But I'm sure Black Oak will step up and just take one for the team here.
But you still have to go through the motions.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, Black Oak takes one for the team. No extra card draw for for Lars, and Tamas forces game 3.
Nice game for Tamas. Some pretty aggressive returned phalanx action.
Definitely.
What have you been looking at, Luis?
I'm actually just watching about Game 3 between Coriollac and Bing Luke is about to start. Their first 2 games are absurd. We might not get a chance to watch them right now, but it is like Kiora on one side. We had Arbor Colossus. We had Corey just playing all his good cards. Bing Luke going off with a Triad of Fates and Keepsake Gorgon.
What?
Just the back and forth was just absurd. And they had 2 really long games. They just started Game 3. And other than that, I mean, between the feature match, their match, there's only one other match still playing. So it should be this has been a pretty interesting round so far.
Cool.
Okay, well, it looks like we are underway here in Game 3 of our feature match table, with Lars Dom leading off with an island, and Tamas Glied matching him with an island, and then going over the top with a Springleaf Drum. Oh, Shipwreck Singer.
That's a good one. There's an Ordeal of Thassa behind it, too. Or no, we're looking at, that's Lars's hand.
Who goes turn 3, Opaline Unicorn. So we're going to see an attack, and I assume a Blood Toll Harpy here. Yep. Very aggressive opening for Tamas. There you get a look. So you're going to see a Sealock monster come down on turn 4, making that unicorn look pretty good. But there's the Chimera. So Air Force, all Air Force for Tamas.
Yeah, both players are playing 5 drops on turn 4.
I really like Springleaf Drum quite a bit in this format. I mean, I don't know, I never know how early to pick it, but I'm never unhappy to have it in my deck. The Sealock monster attacks. And, Prognostic Sphinx. Wow.
That's a good one.
Wow. Yeah,
Prognostic Sphinx, 3/5 flying. You basically can't kill it because their opponent will just discard something to give it hexproof. And when it attacks, you get to set up the next draw phase by figuring out which of the top 3 cards you want to draw.
Scry 3 is
so powerful.
Yes, is just so much. And again, you get to do that turn after turn with this card.
Yeah, and you see Tamas is in the tank now. It says definitely slowed the game down to a halt. All of a sudden, Impression Chimera can't attack. All of a sudden, Sealock Monster plus Prognostic Sphinx are threatening a ton of damage. And if Lars plays a land next turn, he can actually monstrous the Sealock Monster already.
Attack Shipwreck Singer does say all attacking creatures, so it's not a targeted ability.
Sure.
He can get some flyers in the way of that Prognostic Sphinx. You see him scrying as he looks for answers. He's close to being able to activate the Shipwreck Singer twice with that Crypsis.
Oh, untapping it?
Yeah.
So that he can give -2?
It's 6 mana, but...
And then it might not... Lars might not oblige him with an attack. Sometimes you got to activate it.
Right.
Sometimes you have to force them to attack as well.
Which is hard to do to Sphinx, since you can. There we see he's got a Siren of the Silent Song on his.
Oh, that's the card he's thinking about the scry on. Nice. Yeah, it's a potentially good card, especially with Springleaf. But let's check out. Yeah, he's definitely worried about how he's going to deal with Prognostic Sphinx. Yeah, and if he is going to...
I think the only way he's going to be able to deal with it
double block.
Is some sort of double block and an extra Shipwreck Singer activation.
Agreed.
Meantime.
So did he top or bottom? Oh, he's going to Voyage's End here.
I believe he bottomed. Yeah.
Voyage's End on the Prognostic Sphinx.
Right, which is going to force... So if Lars doesn't want that to happen, he has to discard a card, but that also taps the Prognostic Sphinx.
So clearing a path for attacks here.
Yes, which means that Tamas can attack for 6.
Tamas is going to race.
Well, he is holding a Gray Merchant. He
It's
also
true.
gets to Crypsis and untap something.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a pretty cool line. He plays for the race. He's holding a trick that'll untap one of his creatures as a surprise blocker, and he's holding a Gray Merchant. None of which Lars knows. And this, I mean, it's like the play is pretty well disguised here, too, you know? Yeah, I think you've got to discard to go hexproof. You don't want to spend 5 mana
and he discards the
replaying
Ordeal
that
with
guy.
Thassa.
Interesting. I don't know what the other choices were. I don't remember the rest of Lars' hand. But yeah, he's going to take 6. Oh, he's got a Voyage's End of his own and a Chorus. Those are the cards he kept. Yeah, those make sense. Those both seem better than the Ordeal here. Ordeal's not going to have time to fire off. This game looks devolving into a street brawl. Or maybe elevating itself into a street brawl.
Cloud Brawl.
Something like that. Definitely fighting in the air. That's for sure. All right, now what is the play for Lars? He has an apparently clear attack. He did not draw the land to give him the ability to go monstrous on Sealock, but that's fine. I mean, he can go Chorus. He basically, the way his mana goes, he can go Chorus with either the Voyage's End or the Omen Speaker.
Plus, he gets to scry 3 if he attacks here.
Plus, he gets to scry 3 if he attacks here. So I think that makes the Omen Speaker the wrong answer. I think Voyage's End in a race like this is just better anyway. Meanwhile, attack. Like, he should attack before he plays any of these because he wants to get the scry triggers off the Prognostic Sphinx, and he wants to have Voyage's End available if there are shenanigans on the other side.
Right. Which also theoretically lets him look 4 cards deep on this turn.
Right.
I was just thinking, he's taking his time here.
So he's probably not going to attack with the Unicorn because 6 mana is just a lot better than 5 with that hand. Seems like you attack with the Sphinx and the monster, right?
Yeah, and then you get to play the Chorus of Tides and have 2 mana up for the Voyage's End.
It's 8 damage. The Crackback is for 6. He's got to live in some fear of a Gray Merchant for 4. So that's probably what he's worried about. 6 plus 4 would be the 10 life that he has now.
But the Voyage's End gives him some protection against that.
Agreed.
I mean, it may even be enough to bounce the Gray Merchant as it comes into play.
Yeah, he lines up the attack for 8.
So there we see the Prognostic Sphinx scry trigger.
Which way did he scry?
He put 2 cards on the bottom and 1 card on top.
Okay. Found one that he likes for next turn. Tamas going to take 8.
He could.
Right. We know he's got the ability to untap one of his guys. He doesn't have a great block here, though, right?
No, I mean, like Crypsis, he just gets to, like, basically chump block with his Crypsis. But he could save 5 damage.
Could save 5 damage. Declines.
And there's the Chorus.
Yup.
And still have Voyage's End mana open.
I would have left up Mountain Unicorn so that my Voyage's End was more disguised, but it doesn't actually matter.
So we're in Tamash's upkeep. Draws a swamp.
Now what? I mean, the dream would be 6 plus 4 equals 10, but there's a 3/2 over there.
Right, there's Voyage's End mana over there.
Yeah, he sees the Voyage's End mana for sure. Is he thinking? I don't know. he's got to figure out how to survive the next attack. Like, he's not going to win this turn. It's just not happening.
So what happens if he just plays Gray Merchant here?
He gains some life and has a ground jump blocker available. It's not terrible. Now he may have to he can line up the double block on Prognostic Sphinx that we were talking about previously.
Or just hope to use Crypsis as a, soft fog, like fog one of those creatures.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be the play he's lined up. So Gray Merchant will hit for 1, 2, 3, 4 black mana symbols. Lars will take 4. Tamas will gain 4. Right. Lars has a Voyage's End. So what he can do is he can bounce one of the creatures as a response either to the spell or to the Gray Merchant's triggered ability going on the stack, and basically deny Tamas all those black pips. That's the play that Lars is thinking about.
Right. And remember, Lars has chosen a card to be on top of his deck.
Yeah, we don't know what it is, but Lars does. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think bouncing Gray Merchant's exciting, and bouncing the others
it's certainly not exciting.
Bouncing the others only costs you 1 pip. But I mean, that's a 2-life swing. 8 is different from 9. Oh, it's 9 versus 10. I don't think I would fire off my Voyage's End here. It seems like you want to make Tamas commit to attacks and blocks. I don't think this is the spot. I don't think that saving 1 or 2, you can either save 1 life swing, or save 2 life swings but put a Gray Merchant back in his hand. I mean, I don't know what the card is on top of Lars' library, but feels like there are going to be better spots where you can get more value out of that Voyage's End.
Lars is also representing, I guess, Nullify here.
Yeah, the fact that he's doing his thinking with Gray Merchant on the stack, which is smart. Like, there's no reason for him to respond here. He could let the Gray Merchant come into play and respond to the triggered ability. But you don't want your opponent to know that, so think now. Make the decision that you know you're about to have. And Tamas is just kind of patiently waiting. Maybe not so patiently waiting. All right.
Okay.
Triggered ability goes on the stack, and it resolves.
So you just attack with Chimera here?
Makes sense. So now Lars knows
that's
what's
getting bounced.
Yeah. Now Lars sees what's going to be available to potentially block, and he gets to make his decisions about how he wants the next attack phase to go. Does he want to take 3 damage? Does he want to clear like a Shipwreck Singer or Blood Toil Harpy? Seems like putting Chimera back in his hand is pretty good here. What did he target? Yeah, he did target the Chimera.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to go.
Doesn't want to go to 3.
He doesn't want to, risk another untap, play another Gray Merchant situation.
Right, but I mean, he made that decision with Gray Merchant on the stack, I think. Just figuring, but there's no reason to let Tamas know. Like, maybe he'll make a different attack, and it's even better. All right, now what? There's Blood Toil and Shipwreck on defense.
There's a Retraction Helix, which is the card that...
Oh, that was the card he left on top.
Yeah, that's the card he put on top.
That's a good card. Huh. Jeez, he's got some options. Sealock is clearly going to attack. Sure seems like Prognostic should attack. If he could get through 3 creatures, if he attacks with all 3 of his large creatures, then that forces some chump blocks.
So here's just Retraction Helix.
Targeting the Unicorn, I assume?
Yep.
Yeah. And then what does the Unicorn bounce?
The
Shipwreck Singer.
Yeah.
And now Shipwreck Singers.
And that's going to I think that's going to force the Gray Merchant to have to block the Sealock monster.
I think that was happening already, but yeah. I think it does not force Blood Toil to block. Okay, Shipwreck Singer is going to activate.
And say something has to attack.
Right.
Oh, no, he's going to cast Crypsis.
Protection from creatures is enough to beat Retraction Helix.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the
All right.
Opaline Unicorn that has the bounce ability. So now Shipwreck Singer has protection from creatures for the rest of the turn, and it gets to untap. Cute. That wasn't the plan Lars drew up. Now there's an awesome blocking Shipwreck Singer on the other side of the table.
Still can't stop the Prognostic Sphinx.
Right. He wants to attack. When Prognostic Sphinx... Yeah, one of these creatures will get through. One of these creatures will get blocked by Shipwreck Singer. Or maybe Grey Merchant chump blocks. Either way, Lars can kind of... He wants the Scry 3. He wants to set up his next draw phase.
Well, Tamas can just
like
take
this
3
attack.
from the Sphinx and block the...
Right.
Right, block with the Shipwreck Singer on the Sealock monster. Because this Grey Merchant's a live attacker right now. With a 3-2 on defense.
The good news for Lars is that he knows exactly Tamas's hand. It is just the Prescient Chimera that he put there. So he knows he's not going to die next turn. He's at 6. There's 5. I mean, barring a miraculous top deck. And it's not a scryed draw phase. It's just a random draw phase. All right, so Lars is...
I think he's still resolving his scry here.
Right. Oh, you can see what he's looking at. Thassa's Emissary and 2 cards that he already dealt with.
All 2 cards he already put on the bottom.
Okay, he went bottom, bottom, and he's debating the Emissary.
Yeah, that's where he's in the tank. And he put that one on top.
Okay. Shipwreck Singer is going to block the 5/5, and Tamas is going to take 3 from Prognostic Sphinx, it looks like. Still thinking about it. Yeah, I don't think a chump block makes sense here.
I mean, Lars is low.
Right. Tamas got up to 10 with the Grey Merchant, so I think you can afford to take 3. And yeah, here comes Omen Speaker. So he's going to see the Thassa's Emissary that he already put there, so that was a pretty quick Omen Speaker. Did he put the other one on the bottom? Or did he top? I assume he topped the one he topped off the Prognostic Sphinx.
Bottom top.
Bottom top, yeah. So it should still be the Thassa's Emissary. Tamas. What did he draw?
He drew an island, in which he played, and then cast Prescient Chimera.
Oh, he played the island because he wants more Shipwreck Singer mana.
Yeah.
He decided that was more valuable than bluffing. Sounds right. Yeah, Grey Merchant would get blocked by Omen Speaker if it attacks. Blood Toil Harpy, Shipwreck Singer could...
Well, I think he's thinking about attacking with the Blood Toll Harpy
into
here.
the chorus. He's essentially offering Lars a trade, which, I mean, you're trading your 3-mana 2/1 for his 4-mana 3/2.
Yeah, says
Tamas
no
declines
thanks.
the trade.
Too much can go wrong.
Back to Lars.
Who has drawn the Thassa's Emissary that he scryed and scryed again to the top of his deck.
So what does that actually do here? Shipwreck Singer can shrink everybody, can shrink all the attackers. Prescient Chimera is a 3/4 blocker.
It gives him no good block on Corsatides.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
which is what he does.
points
Lets
at
him
a
scry one
Corsatides.
for when he targets Chorus.
Right now he's got 3 creatures, all of which are awkward to block. I mean, the tricky part is he's only on 6 life. So, I mean, when lining up this attack, he has to make sure that he doesn't accidentally die to a chump block and a crackback. Like any 3... Oh, he's looking at Nullify with the trigger, which is not super relevant. I think you push.
Yeah.
I don't want to draw Nullify here.
Right, especially because you're going to get to look at
3 fresh
cards.
ones off
Yeah.
the Prognostic Sphinx. Right, any 3 of Tamas's creatures can potentially crack back for lethal here. So Lars needs to line up an attack which isn't vulnerable to like 1 chump and a crunch. Like, he needs to make an attack that forces 2 different chumps, which is hard to do when Tamas can let any one creature hit him and can shrink things with Shipwreck Singer. Huh. Like, Omen Speaker's not attacking. Can he afford to attack with the other 3? I'm not sure he can, because Shipwreck Singer allows Prescient Chimera to block Prognostic Sphinx. Then you chump one of the others.
It can already just block the Prognostic Sphinx. Right?
Oh,
it's a
true.
3/5.
Fine point. Okay, Shipwreck is going to force somebody to attack.
I believe he's targeting
Prognostic Sphinx?
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because that's the awkward one. That's the one Tamas can just easily block. And this means Lars is not going to have it available as a blocker on Tamas's attack phase. Wow, if he attacks with all 3 fatties, I think he loses. Doesn't this lose? Prescient blocks Prognostic. Shipwreck blocks it has either one of the other 2.
Yeah.
And yeah, then the crackback, like, you lose the Shipwreck Singer, but you've got 7 power left, unblockable. Oh, the Omen Speaker can block the Gray Merchant. That's what's going on. If he attacks with all 3, maybe it's not a lethal crackback, because the Omen Speaker is available to block Gray Merchant.
Luis.
Crazy.
So actually, if he attacks with all 3, the Gray Merchant can chump the Sea Lock, and then he can hit for 6 in the air.
6 in the air. Yeah, there it
so
is.
So yes, attacking with all 3 does not work.
But that's what he has lined up at the moment.
Yeah, he can take 6 from the chorus, drop to 1 with that attack. Yeah, and Lars sees exactly that, realizes he can't afford to attack with all 3. He goes with just those 2. The Prescient Chimera has an easy block on Prognostic Sphinx, but then Sea-Lock is the issue.
He can go to 2 here if he thinks.
Yeah, there's not enough mana for Monstrous. Tamas can go to 2 and keep all his creatures alive.
Just needs 1 spell.
Wow, he left the Nullify on top. This time he bottomed it? Weird.
Shoves that Chimera in front of the Sphinx.
And yeah, goes to 2.
But he draws Returned Phalanx.
Clock is becoming relevant here, too. Tamas is down to 1 minute. Lars is at 2.
Lars is at 2, yeah.
Yeah, that was not the top deck that Tamas needed.
Depends on how many times he wants to activate the Returned Phalanx.
Well, he's the one who's behind on clock. Yeah, Lars lined up an attack which did not leave him vulnerable here, and now his attacks just get better and better, because now Tamas is at 2.
Right.
Yeah, another ground blocker.
No
Empty-handed.
No actual attacks for Tamas here, right?
I don't think so.
Yep, passes the turn. 22 seconds.
Temple. Yeah, it was bottom, 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 and he drew a Scryland. I think you hold that in hand. The bluff value's definitely not nothing. Shipwreck is going to force another attack from Prognostic. $13 seconds. Yeah, Shipwreck Singer.
Maybe he's timing himself out here.
Well, I mean, I think he's behind anyway.
Yeah, no.
If he had infinite time, I don't think he would die on the spot. I mean, this is a really complicated board. But yeah, I mean, Lars at this point just needs to not die because he's going to win on time. All right, now if he's lining up the triple attack this time. There are 6 power worth of flyers on the other side of the board, so it's super scary. But the thing is, all 3 of those creatures are lethal, so all 3 of those creatures must be blocked. Any of the 3 big ones that he attacks with has to get blocked. Oh, even Omen Speaker, Opaline Unicorn. That doesn't help, though, because that's just Return Phalanx and Gray Merchant. Block those 2.
Yeah.
I guess it denies Sea-Lock. It denies him an easy chump on Sea-Lock, but 1 damage doesn't matter.
And Tamas really just wants to stay alive, I guess, for a sip of hemlock here.
Oh, sure. Now
So,
here's
and he can do
prognostic
that.
strength triggers. And now you gotta make these decisions quick. Like, you're ahead on clock, but you're only ahead by 40 seconds at this point. So he makes some quick decisions.
Yep.
Yeah, Chimera's gonna block Sphinx. You have to chump block the Sealock monster. 4 seconds. I mean, Tamas, I think, was gonna lose this game anyway, but now he's gonna lose it on clock.
Yeah, he's not gonna have time to attack.
So Lars wins the match.
But if I don't know what he drew, but if he had drawn a sip of hemlock there, he actually could have won.
Yeah, sip the flying blocker and crunch over.
Okay, so so that was our feature match. Tamas Glied goes to 6-2. Lars goes to 7-1. But we have a red zone replay with Luis Scott Vargas over here that we're going to check out. Luis, set it up for us.
Yeah, I'm ready to go whenever. We've got Corey Lack against Bing Luke. I mentioned that their game was pretty insane, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at their first game here. Since with Corey Lack's blue-green deck against Bing Luke's black-white deck here. So let's go ahead and get that started.
This is how to triad your dragon or something?
Well, we'll see. So, the game doesn't start super quickly. I mean, Bing has the 2-drop, but soon you've got, a lot more toughness than power on the board with Fellhead Minotaurs and Wavecrash Tritons, kind of gumming up the board. But that Wavecrash Triton picks up a few pairs of pants here.
Oh, jeez.
But neither player is still, even thinking about doing much in the way of attacks here. So
Fortune Hunter's like, where's my pants?
Yep, the Fellhide Minotaur gets Death Touch, gets to smash in for 3, but here comes Kiora.
Oh my.
Oh, good grief.
And here comes Keepsake Gorgon. So both players are just slamming awesome cards. Nessian Demolock comes down. Bing opts to not feed it a Baleful Eidolon, instead making it a 6/6. Keepsake Gorgon eats it. Bing has a decent attack here. Basically, he throws away 2 creatures to get Kiora to 1 and trade for Fortune Hunter, which I think is reasonable. But the Wavecrash Triton continues to go off, and right there he locked down 1 creature with Kiora, the other with Wavecrash Triton.
Sure.
Bing then has a giant Shrike-Harpy. Corey then has an Arbor Colossus. The Shrike-Harpy, becomes a 6/6 flyer, but then Corey has Triton Tactics to kill the Shrike-Harpy, make Arbor Colossus survive. Kiora keeps ticking up. Scourge of Skull of Vale comes out, but then Bing has
100-handed one.
Well, he tries to have a 100-handed one.
Okay.
His attempts are nullified. Corey follows up with a Thassa's Emissary.
Oh my gosh.
Now Corey's on the warpath. Kiora also keeps ticking up here. So, but Bing's not quite done yet. Griffin Dreamfinder gets back Observant Alseid, gets to come down again. Bing now has a Keepsake Gorgon, which is a great blocker. Colossus goes monstrous, but can't attack because Bing has a 3/6 Death Touch ready and waiting to block.
Look at that Scourge!
The Scourge eats the Arbor Colossus, becomes a 14/14 Trampler. Bing has a Lash of the Whip to try to not take lethal. Corey dissolves the Lash of the Whip. And then tramples over for lethal. So
what a game!
Yeah, that game was pretty insane. Game 2 is also very, very good.
Really?
Yeah, but these guys' decks just match up so well. So all right, we're ready to roll back with the replay there too. We've got the game set up, and this is Game 2 of Corey versus Bing here, where Corey took Game 1 with a 14/14 Scourge of that was hitting through a Lash of the Whip. Bing kicks things off with an aggressive 1-drop here.
Yeah.
The Scourge comes out, and Bing, has an early 100-handed one this time, but Corey's setting up. And if you noticed last game, Corey put 3 enchantments on a Wavecrash Triton. If they all went on Triton Fortune Hunter, it would have been a lot tougher, since that's 3 extra cards. These guys have a lot of rares to play with. Triad of Fates is pretty instrumental this game. It combines well with Keepsake Gorgon. Let's just put it that way.
Wow. Wow, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Is that really where we're going?
Thassa's Emissary draws a card, tries to draw another card. Now Bing is actually just putting counters on Corey's creatures, ready to eat them with Triad of Fates. Corey does get to draw cards, but it's still better than dealing with a 5/5 necessarily. At this point, 100-handed one is now monstrous. Corey has a 5/5, a 6/6, a 6/5, and a 2/2 that can immediately become giant, plus another 6/6 that can monstrous here. So it's just the largest creatures that you can possibly imagine.
Gorgon takes down Colossus there.
The Gorgon finally gets a fate counter as well,
Oh.
which definitely sounds like the beginning of the end here.
Triad of Fate's keepsake Gorgon. I have not had the pleasure.
Yep. Bing blinks the keepsake Gorgon, goes monstrous again.
Oh, jeez.
Scourge of the Scourge becomes now a 7/7. And now Bing has the other option too, which is he plays Return Centaur, mills Corey, and now he could start flickering Return Centaur if he really, really wants to. There Bing was forced to triad away the Scourge in order to, triading the Scourge to blink it, not to exile it. So blinking it sets it back down to a 2/2, and then but doesn't draw Corey any cards.
What happened to keepsake Gorgon?
It eventually had to block and died to a Feral Invocation. But Bing also had a Divine Verdict, so he's still in pretty good shape. If you notice that Triad of Fates has been activated like 12 times at this point. So at this point, Corey's back to not having good attacks. Bing's back to going off with a keepsake, Return Centaur, Triad of Fates. He can now start blinking the Return Centaur, try to mill Corey out. Corey's down to 14 cards in his deck at this point. 100-handed one takes a bunch of other creatures down with it. And at this point, the Triad is still ready and waiting here. Bing just takes the damage, puts an owl, puts a counter on Scourge. He's going to blink the Scourge again in order to set it back to a 2/2.
Sure.
But because Corey doesn't attack, he doesn't have to yet, so he blinks the Return Centaur instead.
Are the draws mandatory when you blink your opponent's creatures with Triad?
I believe so, yes.
Decking is relevant here, right?
Yeah, that's another option. He can. So now Corey scooped because end of turn Bing went to go remove Scourge, draw 2 off the Triad of Fates, and then deck Corey. So that was
crazy.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy match. We can go ahead and go to Game 3 in a second here. Game 3 is a little faster, which is good because the first 2 games were incredibly long. I've got Game 3 queued up here, so we can go ahead and take a look. Where this time, well, we'll see in a second here, but Corey has a pretty good start. Last time he didn't really get anything on the board till turn 3 or 4. This time he's got the Voyaging Satyr into Sylvan Caryatid start.
Nice.
He doesn't play a land that last turn, but the fact is, with essentially 5 mana out already, he's in good shape to start playing his giant monsters, and he's got a ton of giant monsters. Starting with the Scourge, which is actually a really good combo with Sylvan Caryatid because it eats according to toughness. So Sylvan Caryatid can make Scourge a 5/5. Heliod gets nullified there, one of the few answers to it. And Bing attempts to get Heliod back here with Griffin Dreamfinder, but Corey has the Dissolve.
Wow.
Omen Speaker goes away. Scourge becomes a 5/5. Again, Corey's strategy of playing high toughness creatures works out pretty well here. Vulpine Goliath comes down. Bing attempts to stop Corey with a Baleful Eidolon, but this turn's pretty big too. After Bing blocks, Corey Voyages ends the Return Centaur. That stops his creature from being blocked, and because it has Trample, he hits Bing for 11 here. So even though 100-handed one comes out, Corey still has a 5/5 and a 6/5, and next turn is able to attack for lethal with the Scourge and the Vulpine Goliath there.
Wow.
So that was easily the most exciting match of this round.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it was definitely
Which
awesome.
of those 2 decks do you want to be playing?
I would rather play the blue-green deck just because it's able to go off with Kiora and has a bunch of bounce spells. But Bing's deck, I mean, Triad of Fates is the most fun card that either player played. So I would rather play the blue-green deck, but Triad of Fates is also very awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play a Triad of Fates deck, I assume you want to be against a slow blue-green deck that actually lets you get set up to do your Triad of Fates tricks.
Definitely. Crazy match.
So, well, you know what? It sounds like we can send it down to Marshall, who has Bing Luke in the interview zone, where he can talk to him a little bit about his deck in that matchup. So let's send it down to Marshall.
Hey guys, Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the interview zone, it seems, and I've got Bing Luke with me now. Bing, that match didn't end the way you wanted it to, but wow, what a match!
Yeah, game 1 and 2 were just real strange games, and lots of rares.
Yeah, I walked up and I walked actually behind Corey's computer to kind of check it out, and we have Nate Price and I sort of scoping around for good matches, and I was like, wow, there's like 5 or 6 rares. There's a lot going on. I walked over to Nate. He's standing behind your computer.
Yeah, it was, game 1 and 2 were just really long and a lot of interactions that you don't often see. Unfortunately, game 3 was kind of anticlimactic, but that's the way these things go sometimes.
Yeah, so you have a white-black deck, generally considered grindy, an attrition type deck. Your deck fit that description.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think it had some value cards. It had the Triad, obviously, Keepsake Gorgon. Didn't get any Scholars, unfortunately, but you know, it has some things that can go over the top if the game goes very long.
Yeah, and we saw that. I don't think I've ever seen anybody use Triad of the Fates quite the way that you did there. I mean, you were getting value left and right from it. What are the best interactions you have with that?
Well, I think, you know, Keepsake Gorgon and Return Centaur are both kind of very good things to do with it. I mean, the other thing to do is that it just hedges against bad things happening to you, especially with heroic cards or just large creatures attacking you. You can kind of hold it to fog someone. Yes. And, you know, especially because he has the Scourge, it could reset the Scourge. It also, you know, I saw Setessan Battle Sworn, Oath Sworn, you know, the 3-mana heroic guy. So, you know, sometimes those can get very big, and it's nice to just have that, you know, have that in your back pocket just in case something bad happens.
And then, like you said before, you can also use it to go late game, which is what you did here. You started off by blinking your Keepsake Gorgon to try to keep the board clear, but then you went for another plan after that, after the Keepsake died.
Yeah, you know, he had a lot of counters. I saw game 1, and there were also 2 sudden storms that I saw in the draft. So I was kind of afraid of both dying out of nowhere and that what I had on the board was what I, you know, basically all I had to work with to win. Even though I had spells in my hand, I really couldn't depend on them resolving. So, you know, what I had is I had a Return Centaur, I had a couple other creatures, and I had the Triad of Fates, and, you know, it's a pretty fast clock when you start blinking it in and out.
With the Return Centaur?
Return Centaur, yeah, just milling him for 4.
Right, and that actually ended up being your long game plan in that second game, or in that first game.
The second game, yes.
Second game.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I couldn't, because of, I was worried about the sudden storms, I couldn't really attack, even though I had some attacks that looked safe.
Now, so your white-black deck, I mean, how happy are you with it overall?
Not very happy. I mean, it's got some strong cards, but it doesn't have the cards that you really want, you know, to have that really grindy archetype.
Okay. All right, Bing. Well, thanks for your time. All right, so we're going to send it back over to the booth. All right, thanks, dude.
Sign up for Magic Online today. Every new account is able to play in the new player sealed and draft events specially designed to help you start your Magic Online collection. Visit mtgo.com to download Magic Online.
Hey, everybody, welcome
Play
back.
Magic at a store near.
Welcome back. So we just watched round 8. That was the first match of day 2 here. So let's take a look at the standings at the end of 8 rounds as we go into the middle round of this draft pod. We know that Lars Dam is sitting alone on top of the standings at 21 points. And Tamas Glied, despite losing,
Yeah, he's still second
is
by
still
himself.
by himself at 18 points.
Yeah, the most interesting part here for me is like who was winning amongst the 4 and 3s, and it looks like it's Anssi Alkio, Dmitry Budakov, Hannes Karem. Those are the guys that took sort of step 1 toward climbing up to the top.
And what I find really interesting here is how much Pro Tour experience has clustered near the top
No,
of the
it's
standings.
true. That's fair.
All 5 of these guys, you know, have tried their hand at, you know, not just, you know, the sort of pressure
Yeah.
of playing for such a big prize.
And now you look at the 5 guys who are at 4 and 4. You see the pod 2 guys who are starting to climb a little bit, right? Corey Lack, Paul Nemeth are sort of working their way up, whereas you know Rune and Andre Strosky are slipping back a little bit. The matchups this round, and now the pairings start to get a little more interesting too. I know that our feature match is actually Tamas Glied versus Dmitry Budakov. So you've got second versus one of the guys that's in the 3-way tie for third. Different records, but that's just how the pairings work out in a 16-person tournament.
Yeah. What are the other significance? I see.
Well, Lars is going to be playing Anssi. So Ansi's the guy who got paired up. It's actually good news for Anssi because it helps his tiebreakers. And then it's Hannes versus Andre and Rune versus Paul.
Right. And Andre can make a push here as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Andre's on pod 1. Paul is also pod 1. So it's Andre and Paul are the ones playing on pod 1. It's Gabriel, who's sort of working his way up from pod 2. In terms of the featured match, though, Tamas Glied, we just saw him. I think we've got a slide queued up for him. we saw him lose to Lars Dom in the first round match. And, you know, it's always kind of awkward when you lose on time. You know, he's probably going to lose anyway.
Right.
But he's just got to forget about that.
Yeah.
He's got to forget about that. He's got to focus on the next one. He's still in second place.
He's going to say, I'm still alone in second place.
Absolutely. 2-1 would be a spectacular result for him here. And, you know, he kind of needs to, you know, 0-3 is the train wreck. You know, losing one match, not that big a deal.
And he's going to be playing against Dmitry Budakov. And there you get a look at the reigning Magic Online champion.
The
He
champ
won
is
last
here.
year. We're at
You have 15,000 lifetime matches. I believe that is the second highest total in this field. And, you know, just a tick under that 60% lifetime win percentage. Super impressive guy. You know, and all those matches are since 2010, too. I mean, he's in terms of, that's 15,000 matches spread out over just 4 years. You know, 3 years and change.
That's pretty ridiculous.
That's a lot of
actually.
magic. You know, and we talked about this yesterday. He's literally just playing in Siberia.
Yeah.
You know, he's from Russia. He's specifically from Siberia. Spends a lot of time inside playing Magic Online. Seems like a fine thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's someone who's really been looking to make that step up to professional Magic, you know, go to more GPs, play in more Pro Tours. And, you know, he would obviously love to be he would love to be a two-time Magic Online champion. We haven't had one of those yet.
True. And a lot of big names who have won this championship, including his.
All right. It sounds like we are ready to go down to the floor and watch these guys play. So let's send it down to Dmitry Budakov and Tamas Glied.